It was almost midnight when Daniel's dog, Baxter, shot up from the living room rug like someone had yanked him by an invisible string. 1 second he was asleep, the next, ears stiff, tail low, muscles tight. Then he growled, not at the windows, not at the front door, but at the hallway. Daniel frowned. "Buddy, what's wrong?" Baxter didn't blink. He faced the far end of the hallway, the one that led to the bedroom, the closet, and the door Daniel almost never opened. The basement door. Except Daniel didn't have a basement. The landlord confirmed it when he moved in. Old house, no basement, just a crawl space sealed decades ago. But Baxter kept staring at that door, and then he barked. A deep, frantic bark he never used indoors. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Baxter, stop. There's nothing there." But the dog wouldn't stop barking. His paws slid on the hardwood floor as he pulled toward the hallway, toward that door, like something behind it was calling him. Dan's stomach tightened. That door was locked, always locked. He didn't even have a key. Hey, it's okay." Daniel grabbed Baxter's collar. The dog didn't even look at him, just growled at the unmoving door. And then, thud. A heavy knock hit the other side of the basement door. Baxter lunged forward, snarling. Daniel froze. No wind, no pipes, no settling house noises. Something had knocked back. He whispered, "Who's down there?" The hallway light flickered. Baxter let out a low, terrified whine and slowly backed away as if whatever knocked had stepped closer on the other side. Daniel stared at the lock on the basement door. It was turning, very slowly. Click, click, click. Something was unlocking it from the inside. The tiny metal lock on the basement door continued to turn, not fast, not forced, slow, purposeful, like whoever or whatever was inside wanted Daniel to hear every click. Baxter whimpered and backed behind Daniel's legs, tail tucked so far under it nearly brushed his belly. Daniel's throat felt dry. The landlord said there was no basement, just a crawl space sealed with concrete. So how was something unlocking a door that shouldn't even open? Click, click, click. The lock turned fully upright. Daniel didn't dare move. He waited for the door to swing open, for something to step out, for a hand, a shadow, anything. But nothing happened. The door stayed shut, silent. Baxter growled again, but this time it wasn't at the door. He was staring at the floor, right where the hallway rugs met the base of the basement door. Daniel looked down. A thin, dark line of dust was forming along the crack of the doorframe, like something was pushing air outward from inside. Cold air. Too cold. Daniel reached for the doorknob, even though every instinct screamed not to. His fingers hovered an inch away. Knock. A single, loud hit from the other side. He jerked his hand back. Baxter barked furiously. Another knock, this time softer, almost deliberate, like a reply. Daniel forced a shaky breath. "Okay, you don't exist. That room doesn't exist. What is happening?" His phone buzzed in his pocket. A notification. Motion detected, basement door. Daniel swallowed hard and opened the camera feed. What he saw made his grip tighten. The camera view wasn't from the hallway, not from outside the door. It was from inside. Inside the basement that wasn't supposed to exist. A grainy, dark room. Concrete, dust, old wooden beams, an empty chair sitting in the center. But the worst part, in the corner, barely lit by the camera's infrared, stood a shape, tall, still, facing the door, facing him. As the motion camera adjusted, the figure stepped a fraction closer toward the lens. Right as Daniel watched the live feed, the figure lifted one hand and pressed it gently against the inside of the basement door. On Daniel's side, the wood flexed outward. A handprint formed. Slowly, deliberately. Then another. And another. 5 handprints, all pressing outward. Dan backed away, whispering, "Baxter, don't move." But Baxter wasn't looking at the door anymore. He was staring behind Daniel, at something standing in the hallway. Daniel froze. He didn't want to turn around, didn't want to breathe, didn't want to confirm what Baxter was staring at. But the dog's low, trembling growl told him everything he needed to know. There was something behind him, standing in the hallway, standing between him and the only exit. Daniel swallowed hard. "Baxter, what do you see?" The dog didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared at something over Daniel's shoulder. Finally, with a breath that felt too thin, Daniel turned. His heart nearly stopped. At the far end of the hallway, near the front door, stood a figure. Still, shadowed, too tall for a normal person, its head nearly touching the archway. It wasn't walking, wasn't moving. It was just present, like it had always been there, and Daniel had simply never looked directly at it until now. The basement door behind him creaked, but the figure didn't react, didn't turn, didn't shift, didn't acknowledge either of them. Daniel whispered, "Who are you?" No response, but Daniel noticed something worse. The figure wasn't standing on the floor. Its feet hovered an inch above the hard wood, just enough to be wrong, just enough to make his stomach twist. The air around it shimmered faintly, like heat rising off asphalt, but the hallway felt colder than before. Then, without moving its head, the figure's chest expanded, like it had taken a slow breath inward. Baxter barked sharply. The figure exhaled. Lights flickered. For a second, just a second, the hallway warped. The crown molding bowed inward, the ceiling rippled, the walls stretched, and the figure was suddenly closer. Half the distance now. Still hovering, still expressionless, still silent. Daniel stumbled back toward the basement door. "No, no, no, stay away," he said, voice cracking. But the figure didn't chase. Instead, it lifted one arm, not fast, not threatening, just raised its hand as if pointing toward the basement door behind Daniel. Daniel felt his stomach drop. "It wants me to open it." Baxter barked again, but this time he wasn't looking at the hovering figure. He was staring at the phone in Daniel's hand, still showing the live feed from inside the basement. The tall shape inside the basement was no longer standing still. It was walking toward the camera. Slow, measured, footsteps silent on concrete. It reached the lens and whispered Daniel's name, not in a monster voice, in his own voice. The hovering figure at the hallway entrance tilted its head, not toward Daniel, toward the phone, as if listening. The basement door behind Daniel clicked again, unlocking itself a second time. The lock on the basement door clicked fully open. Again. Daniel backed up until the wood brushed his spine. He could feel the cold leaking through the seams, unnatural cold, like he was standing next to the entrance of a freezer built underground. The hovering figure at the end of the hallway lowered its hand, as if its part was done. Baxter whimpered and crawled under the small table by the wall, shaking violently. Daniel forced himself to breathe. Okay, you guys want the door open? Fine, just stay back." He put his hand on the doorknob. It felt wrong. Not cold, not warm, just wrong. Like touching a material that shouldn't exist. He twisted it slowly. The door creaked open, half an inch. Everything went silent. No more clicking, no more flickering lights. Even the hovering figure seemed to wait. Daniel swallowed and pulled the door open. Not all the way, just enough to see inside. Then his breath stopped, because the space behind the door wasn't a crawl space, wasn't concrete. It was a staircase, a long one, descending into darkness. Old wooden steps, walls lined with rotting beams, air drifting up like cold breath from a sleeping giant. It didn't make sense. His house wasn't big enough to fit a stairwell like this. The landlord said there was no basement, but this staircase went down, farther than the height of the entire house. Daniel whispered, "This can't be real." He leaned forward to peer into the darkness. The same voice from the security feed echoed up the stairs. His voice, soft, calm, calling from deep below. "Daniel, we need you." His blood turned to ice. Daniel staggered back. Nope, I'm not going down there." The hovering figure's head snapped toward him, its first sudden movement. Not violent, not lunging, just abrupt, as if disagreeing. The house groaned, the walls trembled. A deep rumbling sound rolled up from the staircase, like something enormous moving through the darkness below. Daniel slammed the door shut, but the door bounced back open, like something behind it had blocked the frame from closing. A slow, deep breath rose from the darkness. Daniel gasped. Something was climbing the steps. Not running, not rushing, just climbing, one step at a time. Wood creaking, steady, purposeful. Step, step, step. The hovering figure in the hallway vanished. Not walked away, not faded, just blinked out. Baxter whimpered louder. Daniel stepped back, whispering, "Please don't come up here. Please." Another step. Closer. Echoing. The breathing stopped. Then, a hand gripped the edge of the top step. A pale hand, human, shaking. It pulled upward, and another hand emerged. Then a shoulder, a head. Daniel's knees nearly gave out. The thing climbing out of the basement was Daniel. Same clothes, same face, same small scar on the jaw. But its eyes were wrong. Not angry, not monstrous, just empty and smiling. Daniel couldn't move. The version of him climbing the stairs pulled itself one step higher, its shoes scraping the wood exactly the way he walked when he was tired. It wasn't copying him, it was him, down to every movement, except for the smile. A calm, permanent smile that didn't match the fear in Daniel's chest. Daniel shook his head. No, that's not me. I'm right here. That's not me." The other Daniel paused on the top step, head tilted slightly as if studying him. Then it spoke. "You left the door open." Not threatening, not even emotional, just a statement. Daniel stumbled backward. "What do you want? Why are you me?" The other Daniel blinked slowly. "I'm not you." Daniel's breath hitched. "But you're wearing my clothes." The other him nodded. "They fit." Daniel felt his stomach twist with cold nausea. This thing, whatever it was, didn't understand the difference between wearing something and being something. It stepped fully onto the floorboards now, standing upright, same height, same posture, same everything, but wrong in every subtle way. Its smile never moved. Its breathing didn't match his. Its eyes didn't blink at the right moments. Then it said something worse. "You left us waiting too long." Daniel froze. "Us?" The basement door creaked again, not from footsteps, from multiple footsteps, dozens, hundreds, a slow shuffle of bodies moving upward. The other Daniel turned his head slightly toward the staircase. They're coming home. Daniel backed into the hallway wall, shaking. No, no, this isn't possible. There's no basement. There's no... The other Daniel stepped closer. Not fast, not aggressive, just closing the distance. One foot glided forward. His voice didn't change tone at all. You shouldn't have opened it. Daniel shouted, I didn't! The door unlocked itself. The other Daniel's smile widened, the only change in its entire expression. We know. Daniel felt his legs go weak. What do you want from me? The other version of him tilted its head, as if confused by the question. It raised one hand and pointed toward Daniel's chest. To put you back. The house lights flickered violently, and every bulb in the hallway burst at once. Darkness swallowed everything. In the pitch black, Daniel heard the basement door slam fully open. He heard footsteps pouring out, countless footsteps rushing into the hallway. And behind all of it, just inches from his ear, the other Daniel whispered, You don't belong upstairs. Darkness swallowed Daniel's vision. He couldn't see the hallway. He couldn't see the basement door. He couldn't see the other version of himself. Only sound remained. Dozens, no, hundreds of footsteps pouring up the staircase like a river of bodies moving in perfect unison. Shuffle, creak, shuffle. Then they stopped. All at once, as if they were all standing just beyond the threshold of the basement door, waiting. Daniel pressed his back against the wall, barely able to breathe. Stay away, please stay away. He couldn't see anything, but he could feel it. A cold presence breathing the same air, sharing the same space, watching him through the darkness. Then a soft whisper came, not from one voice, from many voices, layered, echoing, all sounding exactly like him. You opened the door. Daniel shook violently. No, I didn't. I didn't mean to. A calm reply. Intent doesn't matter. Entry does. The hallway lights flickered back on, but not normally. They glowed a sick, dim yellow, barely illuminating anything. Enough to see one thing. The hallway was full. Top to bottom, wall to wall. Copies of Daniel, hundreds of them, standing shoulder to shoulder, not moving, not blinking, just watching him. Every face identical except for the smile, that same calm, wrong smile. Daniel whispered, What are you? The Daniels replied in unison, We are what is left. He shook his head. What does that mean? One Daniel, the first one that climbed the stairs, stepped forward. Everything discarded comes down. Everything forgotten lives below. Everything unwanted returns. Daniel swallowed. I'm not unwanted. The copy tilted its head. You moved into a house no one chose, into a place no one stayed. You opened the locked door. Daniel whispered, You want me to go down there? The copy spoke again, perfectly synced. We want you to come back. Suddenly, the hallway behind Daniel bent, literally bent, stretching downward, warping like melted plastic into a sloping tunnel leading back to the basement doorway. The real floor was gone. Only a downward path remained. The copies didn't force him, didn't move closer. They simply watched, expecting, inviting. Daniel backed away, and his foot slipped on the newly formed slope. He slid, fell, tumbled downward, into the darkness. The hallway snapped back to normal the moment he disappeared. The copies vanished instantly. Silence filled the house. A minute passed. Then, the basement door quietly eased shut with a gentle click. A few seconds later, footsteps climbed the stairs again, slow, calm, measured, and from the darkness below, a figure stepped up into the hall. It was Daniel. Same face, same clothes, same posture, but the smile was wrong. He turned toward the living room, toward Baxter, who crawled backward in fear. The copy of Daniel whispered gently, "It's okay, buddy. I'm home." He closed the basement door behind him without looking back, like someone who had done it many times before.
Hey guys, subscribe my channel for more videos.